Welcome back to the deep dive. There is this almost constant hunger right now for narratives,
Mm.
stories that feel really real.
Urgent, yeah. Unforgettable. That seems to be what readers are looking for. High-stakes stuff.
Exactly, stuff that kind of mirrors the complexity and maybe the anxiety of the world you're living in.
For sure.
So today we're zeroing in on a new entry, political fiction. And this deep dive, it's built entirely around just one source.
Right, a single but pretty detailed source.
Yeah.
It's a book review and buying guide. Came out September 15th, 2025 from Cheap Book Depot.
Okay, and what's the subject?
The source is very clear on that. It's about an upcoming political thriller, Under Siege, and the author is listed as Eric Trump.
Got it. So our mission today is basically to unpack what this source claims about the book, right?
Yeah, figure out its market position, why the reviewer seems so convinced it's going to be, and I quote, one of the most talked about releases of 2025.
Okay. Well, the review kicks things off by classifying it, calls it a trifecta: thriller, suspense, and political fiction.
That's a potent mix. It promises action, definitely,
Right.
but grounded in, like, real-world political maneuvering.
Right.
Or at least that's the implication.
But what's interesting, especially since this is coming from a buying guide, is that it immediately claims the book is more than just nonstop action.
Right. The reviewer promises sharp character development, a high-tension plot,
Yeah.
suggests there's some depth there beyond just, pure escapism.
So they're setting it up not just as a fun read, but maybe something more significant, like a piece of contemporary political commentary wrapped in a thriller.
Seems like it. Positioning it that way, yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack the vitals first, the nuts and bolts, publication details, that sort of thing.
The logistics, yeah. Places the book on the map.
So author, Eric Trump, publisher, Threshold Editions. The source is like super specific on these points, almost feels aimed at collectors maybe.
Or just people who plan their reading way, way ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. The key date they flag is October 14th, 2025. That's the publication date.
And page count.
288 pages, which honestly sounds kind of short for this genre.
Really? How so?
Well, you think about the big names, the comparisons they make later. Clancy, Flynn.
Yeah.
Those books often push 400 or 500 pages, sometimes more.
Huh. That's a good point. So 288 pages, it suggests maybe a really tight, fast pace, almost cinematic.
Could be. Very
Yeah.
focused. Less room for meandering subplots, maybe.
Right. And the source gives all the other specs, ISBN, dimensions, weight. But that's mostly for, like, ordering or collecting, as you said.
Exactly. For our purposes, the key thing from these logistics might be that page count. Suggests an emphasis on quality over quantity, maybe. Sharp development in a compact package.
Okay, that makes sense. So that leads us to the core claim, right? What does the review say makes this book stand out from, all the other thrillers?
According to the source, it's the blend. It says it deliberately mixes intense suspense with strategic elements. And this seems important, moral dilemmas.
Ah, okay. The moral dilemmas part. That's where it gets really interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It sounds like the book wants to push you, the reader, beyond just watching the action unfold.
Right. The review suggests it aims to be entertaining, sure, but also thought-provoking. Forces you to think about the pressure cooker situations the characters are in.
It kind of shifts the dynamic from, let's see what happens, to, wow, what would I do in that impossible situation?
Precisely. It signals maybe a strategic depth. Why lean so hard on the moral dilemma angle? Maybe it's to separate it from, like, standard action thrillers.
Ones that are just about the fighting, you mean?
Yeah. By emphasizing the strategic thinking, the ethical knots, they're sort of elevating the narrative, promising a book that asks for critical thinking, not just page flipping.
Make sense. A promise of substance.
Okay, so we've got the book's physical identity pinned down.
Right. Now let's explore the emotional side, the political identity that the source material sketches out. This is section 2, where we see how it supposedly connects to, current anxieties.
Yeah, how it tries to resonate today. The source points to a couple of really relevant themes. First off, survival. Survival in a world that's constantly changing.
Okay. How does the review put that?
It notes the characters face unpredictable dangers, which, the review says, readers can easily relate to in a world full of change.
That feeling that the ground is always shifting under your feet. Yeah, I can see how that connects. Creates an immediate psychological hook for people reading in 2025.
Absolutely. And tied right into that unpredictability is the whole issue of trust and betrayal.
Ah, the classic thriller element.
But the review really highlights it, says this fragile relationship is crucial. choosing the wrong person to trust. That could mean destruction, not just failure.
It's the ultimate gamble when you don't have all the facts, isn't it?
And betrayal in these kinds of stories, it's often subtle, right? Calculated, not just a sudden knife in the back. The source seems to emphasize that psychological game.
Okay. And does it talk about the cost of all this?
It does. Dives into the human cost of conflict and also the psychological toll. What it does to people living under that kind of constant, sustained threat.
Which naturally brings leadership into focus.
Exactly. The psychological cost sharpens the therm of leadership under pressure. The source talks a lot about this. It almost sounds like the political part is less about policy debates and more about how leaders act when everything's on fire.
Tested under duress.
Yeah. The book apparently tests leaders when every move matters. Decisions made with incomplete intel, but with massive, potentially global consequences.
So it makes you think about what really defines a good leader in chaos. Is it about being inspiring, or is it just about withstanding that immense psychological pressures?
And maintaining clarity, yeah. Can you still think strategically when the walls are closing in?
And if we zoom out a bit, this mix the action, the tough choices. The source says this gives you, the reader, a sharper thinking benefit.
Right. You're encouraged to think critically, weigh the consequences, the ethics, right alongside the characters.
Yeah.
It's kind of why people get into this genre, isn't it? It's like a mental workout hidden inside entertainment.
Immersion therapy for strategy buffs.
Yeah, something like that. You're right there in the bunker with them trying to figure out who's playing who. It definitely cranks up the tension using those real-world anxieties about volatility and who you can trust.
Maximizes the tension. Got it.
Okay, section 3. Let's talk about where Under Siege fits in the bigger literary picture.
Right. Context. When a publisher or a reviewer starts dropping big names, making comparisons, they're sending a clear signal, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. They're telling you exactly who they think the audience is, and they're setting some pretty high expectations.
So who are the comparisons?
Well, the source says it's aimed squarely at fans of the big guns. Tom Clancy and Vince Flynn.
Okay. The established masters.
Yeah. And it explicitly positions Under Siege as offering a modern twist on political thrillers for that specific, often quite demanding audience.
Mentioning Clancy, especially something like The Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
Wow, that sets the bar incredibly high, doesn't it? That's a gamble by the reviewer.
It really is. Suggests not just pace, but deep geopolitical strategy, military accuracy, or at least the feel of it.
It's a huge promise, and maybe this is where we should pause and, think critically about the source's claim for a second.
How so?
Well, the reviewer says modern twist, right? But then they name Clancy and Flynn. Aren't they also implicitly promising a somewhat similar structure, like one heroic person or a small team against huge systemic odds?
That's a fair point. So the modern part probably isn't a radical reinvention of the plot architecture. It's more likely in the specific threats, maybe the tech involved, or those contemporary anxieties we talked about, the trust, the shifting world.
Right, so the book has to walk that line. Feel classic Clancy Flynn in its strategic depth, but feel current in its themes.
Exactly. And the source underlines that by listing other similar titles. It mentions Executive Power by Vince Flynn,
Okay.
Threat Vector, and The Hunt for Red October by Clancy, of course, and also The Sentinel by Lee Child and Andrew Child.
Interesting mix. So what's the common thread there, according to the review?
The review implies that all these books, just like Under Siege is supposed to, blend that high-stakes action with really complex, sometimes morally gray strategy.
The hero has to be smart and politically savvy, not just tough.
Precisely. That's the promise Under Siege inherits through these comparisons.
So beyond the thrill ride, why does the source suggest you, the reader, should engage with this kind of demanding stuff? What are the benefits?
Well, first, the obvious one, escape, relaxation. You get totally absorbed, check out from your own day-to-day stuff.
Standard thriller benefit.
Right. But the second benefit the source highlights is maybe a bit deeper. It's the social value.
The shared experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The review suggests books like this are kind of designed to spark conversations.
Yeah.
Among friends, families, book clubs, talking about those tricky themes: survival, leadership, trust.
So it's not just a solitary reading experience. It's meant to generate discussion afterwards.
Yeah, it turns reading into a kind of collective thinking about current political or ethical choices.
Yeah.
It's like a safe space, a lab, to explore those boundaries without real-world fallout.
And that discussion potential, that's probably key to why the source predicts it'll be so talked about, right? It gives people something meaty to debate.
Offers fertile ground for exactly that kind of debate.
Yeah. All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's quickly recap what the source material tells us makes this book tick.
Okay.
Under Siege, political thriller, out October 14th, 2025. Its big selling point, the reason for the buzz, seems to be this promise of balancing intense action with really current, meaningful themes.
Leadership, trust, survival in a shaky world.
It feels very much designed to tap into that contemporary appetite for stories that grapple with hard choices in volatile times.
Definitely. The novel apparently aims to show how courage, resilience, and moral choices define us when it matters most, especially when those choices happen under pressure, maybe in secret.
That mix of strategy, action, and ethical weight, that's the hook.
Absolutely. And, since the book seems so focused on that intense psychological toll and making decisions with limited information under constant threat, it kind of raises a final question for you, the listener, to think about.
Okay, what's that?
Well, if the book's characters are constantly defined by who they trust in this world of, potential betrayal everywhere,
Yeah.
how much of what we call courage in these modern, maybe more psychological conflicts is actually about enduring that isolation, that sustained mental pressure?
Interesting. As opposed to just physical bravery, charging into danger.
Exactly. Does courage maybe become less about the immediate physical act and more about strategic endurance, about holding it together mentally when trust is impossible?
Something to definitely mull over, a different kind of fortitude.
Yeah. Food for thought until our next deep dive.